Hello and welcome to episode 336 of Sutton and Back Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and last night we had the proverbial Pyrrhic victory. The
Yep.
Steelers won, but at what cost, and what do we see?
Well, the defense scored 14 points on 2 touchdowns. They had 5 sacks, 4 turnovers. Deshaun Watson looked terrible, and the Steelers were helped out by, I hope he's okay. It's just horrific Nick Chubb injury. I mean, because he was running right through them.
Yep.
I can't say I mind seeing Deshaun Watson play bad. We've already talked about that enough on this podcast, but it is nice to see. But yeah, the offense, again, if you watch the shows this morning and they're the topic, it's Stephen A saying fire Matt, imploring Mike Tomlin, begging him, please get rid of Matt Canada. The fans were chanting it. All the analytics people are breaking it
And
down.
as I said offline to Jason, the Steeler way is they're not going to fire anybody in the middle of the season. They're just not going to do it. I agree they should fire him,
Yeah.
but I don't think they will. So all I'm hoping for is they find somebody they would like to have, and they bring him in to get his feet wet sometime this season. That's all I can hope for.
And
Although I would be pleasantly surprised if they did pull the trigger.
yeah, and my one concern is Robert Griffin and a few other people in analytics have talked about it, that the Steelers are running sort of this, offense where they're only having him read half the field, which is what you would do with like a high school quarterback. And that once defenses pick up on that, and they've picked up on it for the last 2 years, like that's when you end up with a Pickens touchdown where the linebacker's cheating so far over that you're able to get away with it sometime. But I mean, they had 9 first downs last night. 9 in the entire game. And you've seen all the stats. They're the only team since he's been there. 296 times other teams have gone for over 400 yards. Every team in the NFL has done it, including teams like the Cardinals, and the Steelers have not done it. They average the fewest points. Like every offensive analytic, they're bad at. And like we were talking about a little bit offline, like I think one of the reasons people love Tomlin is he is a loyal person. But you've got Najee Harris starting over Jalen Warren. You've got Dan Moore and Chucks starting over Broderick Jones. And I just think he's so loyal to his guys and the guys that have been there that he's not, doing what's best for the roster at times.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, they're making some bad decisions. But before we get marked in this, we got a lot of people listen to us that aren't Steeler fans. So let's talk about the rest of the NFL.
Okay, let's talk.
Um,
The Bills apparently bounced back, right?
yeah, apparently. They scored a lot of points.
They did.
I'm still not sold. I'm still not sold.
Are you sold on the Dolphins in the
I'm
same
sold on the
division?
Dolphins now.
Yeah. I don't know who their backup quarterback is, and hopefully we won't have to see him because nobody wants Tua to get hurt, but they're just so fast at every position. And their offense, they have great play design. They're getting guys wide open, and Tua's hitting them in stride, and they look
Great schemes.
fantastic.
I'm worried about my Chargers because they scored 58 points in 2 games in a row, too.
And they have 0 turnovers on offense.
Yeah, they can't stop anybody.
No. They've scored 58, given up 63. And, that's with Derwin James and everybody else they brought in. We talked about, you talked about the cursed team that they are. And maybe they are.
Jason and I when we were visiting, I talked about the curse of the second franchise in the city. Okay?
Yeah.
So for LA, that would be the Angels, the
Right.
Chargers, and the Clippers.
And if you look at the Clippers right now, you ended up with Kawhi and Paul George. They can't stay on the court. If you're the Angels, you've got arguably the 2 best players of the last decade. No offense to Mookie Betts, in Ohtani and Mike Trout. They can't win or even make the playoffs.
Nope.
And then the Chargers just seem doomed to, be everybody's darling in the preseason and the offseason and just not make that leap.
And then let me continue my second city curse.
Okay.
In Chicago, you get the White Sox.
Yeah.
In New York, you got the Mets, the Jets, the Islanders,
And the Nets.
and the Nets. I mean, it seems like it holds water, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
I mean, I don't know what it is. But they're spending money, they're investing in their product. They just can't win. They can't be successful.
No.
And every once in a while, God smiles, and the Mets go in the World Series, or the Angels win one. But it's not sustainable. It's not consistently that you say this is a great team. Oh, and then throw in the Oakland A's and the Giants. Since it's, across 9 miles apart.
Yeah, very good call.
So I don't know what to think, but it just the Charger thing is just blowing me away because I watch him and the offense looks better than it's ever looked. They look good without even without Eckler. They look good. They didn't run a lot, but they still could move the ball down the field. And then they just can't stop anybody. And then when the ball gets in crunch time, they disappear.
Well, let's talk surprises. I know it's 2 weeks in, but the NFC South, which we blew over because it was going to be a bad division, has 3 2-0 teams right now. And the Falcons, the Saints, and the Buccaneers.
And we only picked one of them to be 2-0.
Yeah. But Baker Mayfield and the
Buccaneers. You
Buccaneers.
could argue that we picked the other two to be 0-2.
Yeah, we did. And
Baker Mayfield might be my big surprise.
Yeah, he's played really, really well.
He's played really, really well. I thought he played decent when he played for the Rams.
I think so.
There were meaningless games at the end of the year. But I thought that's the team he looked the best for when he was playing.
Of course.
Until now.
But people are always like, well, that's just Sean McVay doing Sean McVay magic, and that's not really Baker Mayfield. But maybe it was.
Yeah. And he went to the Panthers, and he was a disaster. And, the Browns gave up on him. It's just hard to say. But kudos to Baker. Kudos to the Buccaneers. Kudos to the Falcons.
Yeah. Bijan looks like a really good pick.
Yeah.
Now, running backs don't last a super long time, but, he looks incredible, like always advertised. The Rams at 1-1.
The Saints are 2-0, and we picked the Saints to be 2-0 in that division. So, but they haven't dominated. They haven't looked amazing.
No. Well, I watched the first quarter and a half before the Steelers came on last night, and they've got pieces. Like Michael Thomas, who was one of the best receivers in football 4 years ago and then couldn't play for 4 years, is back and he's doing Michael Thomas stuff again. I think he had 9.
I saw that. And then I saw Taysom Hill. And why Taysom Hill gets into the Wildcat and runs for 8 yards every time he does it, I have no understanding as to why that happens.
Yeah, I have no idea what percentage of passes he actually throws out of the Wildcat, but I feel like it's really, really low.
I would say it's less than 10%.
Yeah. But again, it's like...
Again, he hits a hole, and he's big and he's strong. I don't know. It just blows me away.
Yeah, it's not a secret. I'm going to do this. And again, I keep waiting for them to be like, oh, now he's going to throw deep, or now he's going to throw he's going to run right, and it's going to be a throw back across the field to the left and something. But no, it's just he gets behind the fullback, and they just push.
Yep.
But good for them.
Well, the Giants are disappointing 0-2.
They're 1-1 actually.
Are they 1-1?
Yeah. Remember they squeaked out that they came back and beat the Cardinals. Despite a valiant effort from...
I thought they'd lost that game.
They were down 28 points, so I get why you thought that.
Yeah.
But shout out to the Cardinals who have not folded. Josh Dobbs has come in and played really well. James Conner, they're, they are 0-2 and they're leading, they're in pole position for that Caleb Williams sweepstakes, but they're not going quietly, I don't think.
No, not at all. But I'm surprised. I thought, when they made a trade, brought Dobbsy in, I thought, okay, they're just going to go and they're trying to have the worst record and get Caleb Williams. I thought for sure that was the plan.
Well, as he was drafted in the 4th round by our Pittsburgh Steelers, we've always liked Josh Dobbs, the rocket scientist.
Yeah.
He's the guy that looks good, but you're always thinking, I could do better, it seems like. But he's solid, right?
Yeah, he's solid. The Texans are about what we thought.
Yeah. I will say, though, C.J. Stroud was pretty good.
He's looked better than the other guys.
Anthony Richardson's looked good running the football, but he got a concussion in the last game, which is what you'd feared with a guy that's that big running that fast. He has not learned to not take the hit. And then Maria was watching football with me, and Bryce Young came on the screen. and she thought it looked like somebody's little brother or some kind of special promotion, because he might be the smallest football player I've ever seen.
5'10", 175?
Yeah. But because he's constantly around the offensive lineman as the quarterback, like he looks small, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He just does. There's really not a lot we can do about it.
No, we got a lot of concerns about Joe Burrow, and we got a lot of concerns about Justin Fields.
Yeah, Justin Fields is in that category of this might be who he is, and that's not a good thing. They put his stats up against Mitch Trubisky's first 3 years, and Trubisky was better in every statistical category. I mean, their total yards were pretty much even. Obviously, Justin Fields has more rushing yards and more touchdowns, but they have the same amount of total touchdowns. So, what can you do?
It's just the strangest thing ever. I don't. It's only 2 games in.
It is.
And a lot of the people are saying it's because people didn't play their players in the preseason, and they didn't get enough, and this is their preseason now, and it's too early to make a decision or make a judgment. I watched Get Up, and they're already anointing the Cowboys as the Super Bowl team, and I still am not there.
No, I don't see them beating the 49ers. I mean, I think both teams healthy. I like the 49ers better than the Cowboys. I think the Eagles will figure it out. They look a little, they have a few new pieces, a few new coaches. And then the Commanders are surprising 2-0.
Yeah.
And I think Kansas City is another team that, like the receivers right now, I think they have like 7 receivers on their roster. Nobody's really stood out yet, but I think they're going to come together. They're 1-1 with a surprising loss, and that, but I can see them figuring it out. I mean, I guess the other big story from the weekend is the Broncos, who are now 0-2. And, Sean Payton does not seem to be a big Russ fan.
No, and did we pick them last?
We did. But that's because that's a tough division of, No, I think we might have picked the Raiders or the Broncos. I don't remember who we picked last. It was definitely Chiefs, Chargers, and then...
I know I would have picked the Raiders because I like Jimmy G.
Yeah. I was like, you're a big Jimmy G guy, so you probably had him ahead of him. Yeah.
And then the Vikings are 0-2.
As are the Patriots. And
so there are a lot of surprising 0-2 teams.
But the Patriots played a tough 1-2 punch. Do you know what Bill Belichick's record is post-Brady?
No.
It is 25-27. Not to not to start the big, who's more important debate or anything, but it is interesting, right?
Very. I mean, it's only 2 games in, but it's been a very, very interesting year.
It has been.
Well, let's switch to talk a little college football.
Yeah.
Big game this week. Colorado, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
To be followed by Colorado, Southern Cal. Well, so we're going to see how real it is.
Well, on a very cheap shot, Hunter, the best player on Colorado, was taken out of that game.
Yep.
For a guy talking about respect.
He'll probably miss both of the games we just mentioned.
He probably will. I think they said he's out 2 to 4 weeks. And for that Colorado State coach to be talking about respect, I did not see a respectful performance from his players. I saw a number of cheap shots, and I feel like he seems like the kind of coach, and again, I know that I don't know him, I'm speculating, but he seems like the kind of coach that encourages that a little bit.
Well, he kind of had put his butt on the line.
Yeah.
But it's surprising they played surprisingly well for a massive underdog.
They really did. I mean, they had that game won, and they just couldn't pull it off.
No,
and then,
all of a sudden, Sanders found the tight end, and the tight end scored the last 2 touchdowns.
And Colorado has become the team you either love or you hate as you watch The Rock and Lil Wayne and Master P and, rappers playing ping pong in the locker room, performing songs for the players,
Yep. If you're wearing a mega hat, you probably hate Deion.
You probably hate Deion.
But, on the other hand, he was on 60 Minutes the other night, and I thought it was a very refreshing, candid, honest interview.
Yeah.
I thought the Deion that you saw in 60 Minutes is the real guy, and he doesn't make any apologies. It's who he is, and he's always been that guy.
He has been.
But he's always cared about his teammates and his players, so I get no fault with him. I
No,
just I think people like humble winners, and he's never going to be a humble winner.
no. But if I'm, thinking about my attitude and the way I was in high school, like that would be the guy I'd want to play for. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, and I think his next recruiting class is going to be amazing.
yeah, whether it's at Colorado or wherever he ends up staying. It's really interesting to see like where he'll stay, if he'll stay at Colorado and keep building, or if he's looking to go. I mean, he is Power Five already, which is what he wanted. So,
Yep.
and I think there's something to be building Colorado into your own Alabama rather than trying to, make a second move as into college. I mean, I assume he eventually wants to be an NFL coach, probably.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah. But we watched part of the Alabama SFU game or USF game. Somewhat
Yeah.
surprising, right?
Well, as they say, if you have three quarterbacks, you don't have any.
It's true.
It's true for Alabama. It's true for Oklahoma State. It's true for a number of schools. You got to have somebody come and take charge and lead that team, and they don't have it. So now he's going back to. It's interesting. I mean, his verbiage was interesting. He went back to the guy that started the first two games
Yep.
and said he had won the job, and it was Monday. How could he win the job? They probably didn't practice on Sunday.
Yeah. Well,
So I thought the way he positioned it was interesting.
yeah, I
But
think
it was logical that you would go back to that guy after the other two. It did make the one guy that transferred from Notre Dame just doesn't look like
no,
he could play at all.
not at all. He looked shaky. He couldn't read the field. I almost thought you just roll with the true freshman or the redshirt freshman and just, you know, take your lumps. He's the highest graded for whatever that's worth coming out, and he's got the most, At some point, you got to.
I thought he looked decent while he was in there. I mean, he didn't blow you away, but he came into a bad situation and they won the game.
Yeah, he did.
Well, he's probably number 2 on the depth chart now.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like I said, once we saw the Notre Dame kid, it was like this guy does not have it.
So another interesting game coming up this week is Notre Dame, Ohio State.
I think that'll be Ohio State's last dalliance in the top 10 this year.
Notre Dame looks really good. The quarterback looks really good that transferred from Wake.
He does.
We'll have to see.
But
And
Marvin
Ohio
Harrison
State hasn't
Jr.
been pounding people like they usually do, so that's been interesting.
Yeah, I mean Marvin Harrison Jr. still looks awesome though. He's got a Hall of Fame dad, but he might end up being the better of the two. So.
Yeah, like I said, interesting games coming up. Tennis. I like the Alabama-Mississippi game as a very interesting game.
Yeah. And it's going to be very interesting to see USC moving forward because they look outstanding. They've got the best player in football, the easily number 1 overall pick. But the Pac-12
We'll have
has
to
that.
see where things go.
Yeah. Because other than that, there's a lot of Pac-12 for the Pac-12 falling apart. There's a lot of Pac-12 teams that have made the top 25 right now.
Yeah, I think the battle for the Pac-12. Oregon State plays Washington State this week.
Yeah.
The two survivors.
It's pretty crazy.
So I think that's interesting. We're now getting into the meat of the college football season because they're done playing the cupcakes.
Yes, they are.
So we'll see where things go. Conference play has started. We will see. It's going to be very interesting to watch. And I don't want to neglect baseball. We got a really good wild card race in the National League. I mean, really good. We've got Chicago, Cincinnati, Arizona, all battling it out, all being very, very close.
Yeah, very close. Very, very close.
And then you still have like Baltimore and Tampa battling to see. They're both going to be in the playoffs, but see who's going to win the division. And you have the same thing with Houston, Seattle, and Texas, but probably not Houston and Texas.
And for the
But
people
some real interesting ones coming up. Some
Yeah.
some interesting players, some interesting power. Not a lot of pitching. A lot of pitchers are hurt.
Very true. And for those looking, if you look at the standings of the American League East, Yankees in 4th place, Red Sox in 5th place, and the Red Sox are under 500 right now. Which, it's been a minute.
Is why the GM got fired,
Yeah.
and he was a genius in Tampa with no resources, and he goes to Boston, and he's got all kind of resources, and he's not successful. That's interesting, don't you think?
It is interesting. It's very interesting. I mean, they've made some very questionable moves too. I mean, the Mookie Betts move and some of the other moves they've made. It just I don't know. Because some of the small market moves they made, like Chris Sales and that other pitcher that were good once upon a time, had been injured for a while, and the Pirates do that all the time. You bring in the former All Star who's missed some time with injuries, and you hope that you were able to rehab him and
Yeah.
bring him up to his former glory, and either use him to win or get another piece for trading him later in the season. And those small time moves have not worked out for the Red Sox, and then the big gambles they've made have not worked out. So
Yeah. No, and I'm looking forward to some playoffs. We'll see how they go. Speaking of playoffs, I have become a huge New York Liberty fan
okay,
in the W. I've always liked Breanna Stewart. I've always thought she's a very sound player, very Tim Duncan-esque. But I like Sabrina Ionescu as a shooter and a fiery leader. So I kind of like the Liberty. They're kind of intriguing to me.
yeah.
And if it comes down to the Liberty and the Aces, the two best teams, it'll be an interesting series.
It will be. And then I think the other big, I guess, pre-NBA news is that there's a mystery team lurking for Dame Lillard in the Eastern Conference. That they don't like what Miami's been offering, and that there's a mystery team. So they've listed
I think
a
the mystery
few.
team might be
Who's that?
Boston.
They put their top four of Toronto, trying to do a Kawhi Leonard thing again. Philadelphia, which they've been linked the entire time, so I'm not sure why they listed as a surprise team. The Knicks, but I don't think you can get rid of Brunson, and I don't think a Brunson Dame Lillard backcourt makes any sense, right?
No.
And then the other team,
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule it out, but it's not what you look for.
And then they've listed, everybody's favorite player, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the Greek Freak, getting him in the Milwaukee. But Milwaukee doesn't have a first round pick until 2028, so it's hard to imagine they have anything. If what Miami's offering is not good, I don't know what Portland or what Milwaukee could possibly offer.
No, I agree.
I mean, I guess condolences. The WWE UFC their merger took place.
Mm-hmm.
And despite both those having record years, they axed hundreds of people. So, pour one out for those people. Hopefully they land on their feet and they're able to find some work. Because that's always a bummer.
So did they say replicating services? Is that the basis or what?
Yeah, and they did it in one of those crummy ways where they said that Friday was a work from home day. And then on Monday there were a lot of empty desks.
That's chicken chip.
It really is, isn't it?
It really is.
And I guess they had somebody make phone calls telling them that their services were no longer needed. And I heard that and I was like, I got to say something about that because that just sounds so ugly. And especially because, like they said, both companies that merged together are coming off record years, including the WWE. That's why they were able to be bought, because they were so profitable. And it's like, I understand that's how business works, but it's just it seems like a terrible way to do it. And, I don't know. I mean, I understand, you merge two companies together, you're going to have two staffs, and you're not going to need the same number of people to do the same number of jobs, obviously. But I don't know. It's just a real bummer.
Yeah.
So I really hope all those people, come out on top somewhere.
So we watched the last episode of Winning Time, the Lakers.
Yeah, we did.
And I guess they had decided that was going to be it. I really thought there would be another year because, you end on one of the biggest losses in Laker history.
Yeah.
And so you don't start telling the real story of the rebuild and, the rest of the Lakers coming in, Kobe and Beck and everything else, which I think a lot of people would really like that part of the story, and you don't get there.
I know
I understand, but, you still ended on a bummer note if you're a Laker fan.
Very much so.
And it was really well done. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
That was my first episode. The last episode, I guess, ever was my first episode watching with you.
You saw 6.
Oh, yeah, 6, yeah.
Yeah, the last episode is after the one you saw.
And like I said, they did a really good job casting. It was well shot.
It was believable.
Yeah, and it seems like from the quotes from the people on that show, they were somewhat shocked they weren't getting the next season.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were.
Yeah, and again, it's it's a bummer. On a positive note, T.J. Watt is now the Steelers' all-time sack leader, and James Harrison sent him a really nice message. And you know, it's nice to see positive stuff, right?
Yeah, it's very positive. And T.J. Watt is an unbelievable player. I mean,
Unbelievable.
I saw times last night where they had a back, a tight end, and a tackle on him.
Yeah. And James Harrison said it. His quote was, "It's great. This is the whole reason I came, so I could be here in person to see it. Records are meant to be broken." And he was happy to
That's
see him go
classic.
down. Yeah,
Very classic. And Alonzo Highsmith looked really good last night.
he did. He's justifying his contract.
Yeah,
He had a touchdown, and then he helped cause the touchdown for Watt.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we're towards the end of the
Pretty
pot, so we can do one more Steelers second. But there are some very positive things on this team, which is why it's frustrating to watch them look so disjointed at times.
Well, let me ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Do you think the Jets will pick up somebody other than their current situation? Do you think they'll go? Do you think they'll try and make a Kirk Cousins trade, or do you think so they'll have? When the Vikings keep losing, the Vikings will probably be willing to make that trade. Would you make that trade if you're the Jets?
I guess I'd be very tempted to. But
Knowing if you make the trade, you're writing off your current quarterback forever.
yeah, which I think we're getting to the point where that may not be I don't know how long it takes to look at, but I mean, we look at Justin Fields right now, and he just, they showed some of those highlights, like, they're like, can you believe this play led to a sack? And they'll show him with a perfectly balanced pocket and a guy wide open on a slant. He just doesn't see him. And you watch Zach Wilson play, and, it just isn't there, right?
No, it's not.
And I mean, Zach Wilson was also one of those guys that when he came out of the draft, he was not a project like an Anthony Richardson, but he was young, a gunslinger that reminded him of people of Mahomes-esque, I guess you could say, with his arm talent and the angles and maneuverability in the pocket. But you don't see it in games, and I feel like you'd see it a little bit in year 3.
Okay, question 2.
Okay.
If you're the Browns, do you bring back Kareem Hunt?
I liked what I saw from the other 2 guys. I would say yes, though, because your quarterback does not look good.
And Kareem Hunt knows the system.
He knows the system. He's been waiting for the right opportunity. You got you have a good offensive line. Yeah, I would. Unless, I mean, they obviously know him better than everybody else at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unless there's a reason, personal reasons you don't want to bring him in that locker room, otherwise I think that's a no-brainer, right?
I mean, I don't know what his price is. I don't know where he is, but how long it takes to get him in shape. But you got to do something
Yeah.
for that team. But speaking of Deshaun Watson, 2 years out might be too long.
That's what people were saying. They're like, it's just, it might be too long. And that's, as a Steeler fan, I don't mind. And it's a I don't know.
As a human being fan, I don't mind
At all, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I saw Andy Dalton on the sideline last night. Who's he playing for?
he's Bryce Young's backup.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what it was. I thought he was wearing a white jersey.
Yeah. And then I guess the other question is, the Jonathan Taylor question is still out there. Like, who brings him in? Because it feels like that bridge is definitely burnt with the Colts.
Yeah.
And if they wanted him back or not, like, it feels like that bridge is pretty well burnt. The Ravens lost Dobbins for the year. Cleveland, obviously, it's another spot potentially. I don't know what Cleveland has to offer as far as draft picks go and compensation, but a Jonathan Taylor could slide right into that Nick Chubb role.
Yeah. Well, as I close, I'll tell everybody, I've always been a big Bill Veck and Mike Veck fan.
Of course.
And tonight on Netflix is the premiere of a Netflix special on Mike Veck called The Patron Saint of Lost Causes. crazy stuff that Mike did with Disco Demolition and everything else will all be on display tonight. So I'm definitely going to watch that. I would recommend anybody to watch it. You'll be highly entertained. And you got to remember, he was doing all this stuff long before the Savannah Bananas existed.
Yes, he was.
So that's my recommendation. It's on Netflix. And
Okay.
today it comes out.
That's a good recommendation. Yeah, I don't think I have any recommendations. I didn't eat any good food, and I didn't
No.
watch anything new.
And you and I were together in Tampa, and we're foodless. We had good pizza, and other than that, that's it.
Yeah, but those are places we've all discussed before, yeah.
Yeah, we've had.
Yeah, so I guess that's about it this week. We'll see what week 3 of the NFL season brings. See if anybody gets fired in Pittsburgh. Probably not, but...
Probably not.
So thank
All
you
right,
for
everybody,
listening.
have a good week. Enjoy your NFL and watch some WNBA playoffs and some fight for the wild card and the Mike Beck series.